Good evening. This is the February 11th, 2025 meeting of the Wolfeboro Planning Board. My name is Doug Breskin. I'm the chair of the board. To my left, we have Vaughn Dugan, Peter Goodwin, Roger Murray. To my right, Brad Harriman and Julie Jacobs. Julie, can you sit in for Steve?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a preliminary consultation for Granite State Adaptive. Somebody here to present for them? Thank you. On the top there.
I'm Jen Frazier, founder and executive director of Granite State Adaptive. I'm here with David Baer, our construction manager from Milestone Construction, and Mario, our engineer from Brown Engineering. As you know, we have an approved site plan. We also have an approved special exception from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I have always been concerned about our original design of our, with all the retention ponds, that they were burdensome and dangerous and detracted from the farm aesthetic that we were creating. However, I thought it was the path that we needed to take, because we followed our prior engineer's advice. Upon receiving bids for the site plan, our bids came in at $1.2 million, which seemed extreme for a nonprofit that was building an equestrian facility. So our construction manager, David, reached out to the civil engineer and also did some of his own research. And it turns out that because Wolfeboro has a 10,000 square foot alteration of terrain trigger for certain stormwater regulations, our footprint became bigger to comply with that, which triggered an alteration of terrain by the state. So the Wolfeboro's regulation triggered us to comply, which then caused 100,000 square feet, which is the state's threshold. What we've discovered is that the Town of Wolfeboro Planning Board regulation has exemption for agricultural uses. We are clearly an agricultural facility. So to do due diligence, recognizing that stormwater is an issue, we discussed it with Ambrose, Ambrose Brothers, who we hired to do our site work, and they recommended that we consult with Brown Engineering. We brought our initial idea to the technical review committee, and it was a full house. Everybody was there, and they were very positive. It was a very positive reaction. So what we've done is we've redesigned the drainage and grading plan. The rest of the site plan is the same. The barn is the same, the arena is the same, the other structures are the same. This is strictly the grading and drainage. And the concept is to use permeable pavers. And you'll see a picture there that the permeable pavers are a way of handling stormwater, but also maintaining the farm aesthetic, because grass grows up through them and you can drive on them. So that is the concept that I showed you. So retention ponds, so financially it was burdensome. It was also a problem because we purchased this 25 acres in Wolfeboro because of the beauty and the retention ponds were going to occupy a lot of the pasture. But there are other problems with retention ponds, including they're dangerous. They're dangerous to the horses. They're dangerous potentially for, the people that we serve in our program. And they're also they can be hazardous with other animals occupying them. Putrefaction, contamination from water pollutants, as well as erosion, overgrowth, and mosquitoes. And I don't know if you're familiar, but there's something called EE, Eastern Equine Encephalitis, and it's common in areas that have standing water. So what I'd like to do is introduce Mario, our engineer, and have him describe the proposed plan.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mario Focoretto, Brown Engineering. As Jennifer said, we were called up and tasked with revisiting the design of the grading and drainage for this project. Our goal was to minimize its footprint, minimize the amount of impervious, and to see if we can't move forward with a responsible design that meets the needs of the clients, but also keeps any adverse effects from happening down gradient from the site. I'll go quickly through the plans and show you what we've done, but you're going to notice that there's not a lot of changes because essentially it's the same site plan that you guys have recently approved with some edits to the best management practices. So on sheet 4, you can see sheet 4, I refer to it as sheet 4 because it's designed to slip into the originally approved site plan and just replace 2 sheets of the site plan. The entranceway, the construction entrance, the wetland crossing, the profile of the driveway, the width of the driveway, the radius of the turns, all of this has remained exactly the same. We have made no changes to the access. We did, however, add a treatment swale, upgrading of the roadway that will capture some runoff and kill the velocity before it goes into the wetlands there. It'll both infiltrate and treat the stormwater for phosphorus and nitrates, much less to the extent that alteration of terrain might want. Had we go through alteration of terrain, there are regulations that set around high traffic, very large impacts. We do quite a few of them, and we refer to them as the Walmart or Home Depot stormwater best management practices. And this is neither of those.
Just a point of clarification, this is labeled as page 3 of, rather than 4.
So on this sheet in green, you'll see the porous pavers. Essentially, it's grass with a stone reservoir underneath. This allows for some volume storage of the rain. It also helps for the infiltration rates, so the water can get into that storage area, and then will infiltrate into the ground. We have an underdrain in these, so under larger events, when not all of the stormwater infiltrates, we allow it to daylight into the grass area. This is, what we've done is essentially kind of retrofit techniques, and this is what we'll do to kind of keep footprints really small and disturb the least amount as we can. It also allowed us to remove impervious from the original design. In fact, the original design had 58,600 square feet of impervious. We've reduced that by over 5,400 square feet. So we've reduced quite a bit of impervious to get this to work. And that helps with the stormwater runoff, but it's also due to our porous pavers that'll capture the stormwater. There is a long swale that runs along the north edge.
Could you make sure you speak into the microphone, because everybody loses you when you...
You can take it off the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is a long swale that runs along the north side of the driveway, and that'll capture all the rain that will come down, all the stormwater runoff that'll come down off the hillside, and we put a plunge pool at the end, and essentially that just kills the velocity again. There's a lot of talk about the stormwater here, because essentially that's what's changing. But the reality of it is the town regulations do not apply to this project at all. As Jennifer stated, this is agricultural use. It meets the state statute definition for agricultural use. It's been determined by the ZBA to be agricultural use, and there's been a lot of, when I looked at the minutes for the planning board, there's a lot of comments referring to this as agricultural use. So when they approached me, they said, hey, we don't have to adhere to any of these stormwater regulations. Can you just make this much smaller? And to do that responsibly is what you're seeing here, is where we are still taking stormwater management into account to make sure that it's done in a good manner. So those are the things that have changed. What hasn't changed are all the items that the planning board approved originally. Everything that is in the purview of the board. The building location, the building size, the amount of parking, the access, fire protection, everything remains the same. In fact, I was surprised to hear that we have to come back to the planning board when this should be an administrative change. With that, I will answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions from the board?
I have one. You said the water, when it gets into the new green things there, that it will daylight?
Yes.
If there's too much, where does it daylight to?
There is an outlet.
Is there piping that goes underneath there as well?
There is. There's a 4-inch, it's a perforated pipe, similar to like a French drain. In fact, we put a trench drain around the building to capture all the runoff from the roofs. And we tie it all in together to give it a chance to get into the ground, infiltrate, and what doesn't infiltrate will daylight.
Is it down at the bottom, you said?
In multiple places,
Oh,
one here, here. It's a network of the porous pavers. It's a way to reduce the impervious, really. And if we can reduce the impervious, that alone decreases any stormwater runoff, but also gives us a chance to deal with the volumes that come off the site. I think it's also worth noting, in doing this, we were able to reduce the disturbed footprint of the project quite a bit. It was, as approved, it was over 157,000 square feet of disturbance. We are now proposing 93,000 square feet, which puts us below the alteration of terrain threshold. And before taking the project on, I had called the supervisor at alteration of terrain, Mike Schlosser, and I said, hey, I got a project here. It has an alteration of terrain permit already, and scope has changed. We want to reduce the impact area. We plan to reduce it lower than 100,000 square feet. What do we need to do with your current permit? Do we need to amend it? And he says, no. No, once you're under 100,000 square feet, you are outside of the purview of AOT. So we got the green light there.
I guess I got a question too about on the drain system here. You have the 4-inch pipes there showing about 2 inches up from the bottom of the trenches there and stuff. Is there a reason you wouldn't have that up a little bit higher to give that water more of a chance to infiltrate into the surrounding ground, it would hold it back a little bit longer and give it more opportunity to infiltrate?
No, I think that's a great idea. Sometimes AOT will push back on that, when we're trying to detain too much water in the ground. It's absolutely something that can be done and has been done. I just kept it the typical 2 inches. That's typical for an underdrain. I
Yep.
just left it typical.
Because, I agree to get rid of the water like around the foundation, you'd want to keep it down low and stuff, but where we're trying to infiltrate some, it might be, thought might be to keep it up a little bit. You could still keep it down plenty so you're not, weakening the structure itself underneath the geogrids, but give that water a little bit of an opportunity to infiltrate a little more before it, builds up and releases out those, the outfalls.
That's a great idea. We can do that.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. What kind of maintenance does this require?
This is a very, I wrote an inspection and maintenance manual. And typically for a project like this, what we're proposing, I wouldn't even give it to the client. Essentially, you just keep it mowed. I would ask that the grass clippings get bagged in over the porous area, porous pavers. The swales are going to act like any other swale that's out there. Just make sure it's free and draining freely. The plunge pool is nothing spectacular. It's essentially a depression in the ground that allows for water to lose its velocity and some sediment, if there's sediment, to fall before it outfalls. So this is a very rudimentary, easy to maintain, typical stormwater implements.
Your first item on your maintenance on DET 2 says landowner must be aware of the requirements for a properly operation stormwater management system and a plan be developed for regular scheduled maintenance.
Yep, that note is a cookie cutter note that I put in. Typically, when I'm doing these detail sheets, we'll have subsurface gravel wetlands or bioretention systems, so things that are much more in-depth than what I'm showing here. It probably should not be in there.
Let me put it another way. Does this need to be maintained on some regular basis to work?
In a sense, no more than any other lawn area. Are you talking about the,
I'm talking about everything you show there in terms of addressing
sure,
runoff.
yeah, to an extent, not to the extent that, again, one of the best management practices that we would use for alteration of terrain, it's not as complicated as that. It's mainly just keeping it clean, checking the outlet to make sure it's not plugged. Nothing that would be out of the ordinary of any maintenance on the site.
I mean, does the plunge pond, which is up at the top of that, does that need some kind of maintenance?
I guess if you find some sticks in there, take it out. There's not much to it. It's really basic stuff. General site maintenance will take care of it.
And I have a more general question as like on the compost, and what's the storage one up from that? Yeah, what is that a building or is that?
It's a building that was originally shown on.
Yeah, it was moved slightly from the original
It
plan.
was to help with the grades.
Is there going to be any kind of a wall around the compost?
Was that required in the original site plan approval?
I probably wasn't raised. I'm just curious because my experience with manure is that it tends to sprawl, and if you had, it just seemed to me it might be helpful if you had something to push up against, and I think Jennifer's got an answer.
Jennifer, could you come up to the mic? Thank you.
The composting structure is a series of 3 chambers with like world block, what would you call it? You know, big block. And so it has walls itself, and it has a roof. So you dump into one chamber, and there's some airflow, so it helps it compost faster. And then you retrieve the compost that's fully composted down below, like with the tractor. So it is not, my house has a giant sprawling manure pile. That is not what this is. This is so that we're able to compost it within like 90 days fully and take it from different areas.
So I guess to answer Roger's question, then it would be contained somehow. Yeah, thank you.
I have one more question about the pavers. Can you drive on them?
Absolutely. H20 loading, a fire truck can drive on them.
Vaughn, did you have some questions?
It was about the manure and whether or not it had the potential of spilling out in the direction of the silt fence. Looks like it's downhill in the back.
I'm not very familiar with each of the buildings and what their use is. I was looking at, when we did the hydraulic analysis, I was looking at how much impervious area is there. So I can't speak to that. I can say that whatever was approved is remaining the same.
So we don't have a copy of the plan, or I don't, that was approved, so it's hard to do.
We chose a specific manure composting system because of how efficient it is and how it does contain the manure. So like I said, there's 3 large chambers. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's 48 feet long. And so, you know, we will have regular manure management practices, but that's not why, that system was already approved by the planning board. And I'm happy to share it with you, you know, at another time. But what we're here to do is ask you to just allow us to amend our drainage. Everything else is basically the same, and we want to amend it because in your regulations, it states that, you know, agriculture is exempt. So,
But, I mean, your answer to my question was that it's contained, right? Is that?
yes. Yes. It's contained, and then it's going to be a very usable product. So, which is nice, which we can either put back in the land or use in the community, so.
Any other questions?
It just looks like prior, behind the composting shed, there was a structure to catch, you know, and there, I don't have the details from this former plan, but. No, a structure in the ground. There's it looks like an ice cream cone. It's probably a swale that was down behind. Just comparing it to what we approved before. Yeah.
A pre-treatment pond, which takes sediment out of the stormwater before it goes into the stormwater basin for treatment.
Mario,
that's-
could you turn the mic towards you a little bit?
Sorry.
So that's no longer on the plan.
No, we have removed all of the, those giant stormwater ponds.
So is that a pond or
That's
just?
a portion of a pond, yes. 4-bay pretreatment. It's an AOT requirement. Prior to any water entering a BMP or stormwater pond, it has to be pretreated, and that pretreatment has to be sized for the amount of area coming in.
I'm just concerned it's not what we had before, so it's different, and I just want to make sure that the manure and the water that may be running out of the manure is not just running down grade.
It is worth noting, that is covered, right? Yeah, so first, I heard your comment, and I'm making a note of that. But also, one thing to recognize is that it is covered, and we have grading away from the building in both directions. So water should not be landing on the driveway and flowing through that manure pile. There should be very, very, very little water actually landing on the manure and coming off. And that's called source control. It's exactly why you see covers on gas stations. It's because if there's oil on the ground, they cover it and they grade it away so water doesn't go from the parking lot through the gas station. It's essentially the same thing. With that being said, I will note that and take another look at it.
So when you're picking up and dropping manure into this shed or compost, it's going to go on the ground here and there, outside of the roof. It just looks like the drainage area that was catching whatever that runoff is not there anymore.
Okay.
My experience has been if you're moving manure with a front end, anything with a bucket on it, you really aren't spilling much of anything, at least if you have any idea what you're doing.
I agree. I think their goal is to keep the site tidy. It's a nice development they have going there.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right. Mario, thank you. And I expect we'll see you at a formal hearing at a future date.
Am I wrong to think that this may be done administratively? I'm just not sure what it is the board will be voting on. Every item that you'll be voting on, you have just approved. We have not made any substantial changes, any real changes to your regulations. In my eyes, the purview of the board has been met. We have not changed any of those. The regulation that the change that we had made is around a regulation that is not applicable to this project, which is the stormwater regulations.
I understand your argument. However, my concern is that if you proceed with the plan as you've presented it today, then you're doing something that wasn't approved at our previous session. So there could be a potential conflict. I'm not saying that what you're doing doesn't comply with the regulations. I'm just saying it would conflict with our previous approval. And I'm not sure how procedurally we would go about that.
Okay.
And
Don't we need a public hearing to make that change?
I would think
Yes.
so, given that it's...
Therefore, and this is preliminary, so we aren't at a public hearing, so
Right.
therefore, that's what you have to deal with, and it may be a trivial public hearing, but in order to keep it legal.
I mean, I've gone, and I'm not arguing, just out of conversation. Many of times have we made grading changes on a site plan without having to go back to the planning board to get their approval.
well, you're making some pretty significant changes here. And I'd like to address your waiver request because I don't think you need most of these waivers because the only ones on your list that were not part of the original approval are, I believe, section 4, which is the date and permit numbers, which the only permit I think you're going to need is, beside the town building permit, is the septic approval. And we would make that a condition of approval, I presume. S, which is proposed landscaping, the prior application, they said you weren't going to change the landscaping, which would address the landscaping. And V, which is location of outdoor lighting, and that, I think, should be addressed. You also, I think snow storage has not been addressed, but that's just marking an area on the plan, and that should be easy to do. So I would hope that we could, show lighting in snow storage, and then refer to the prior approval, because that put the lot size, rights of way, everything else on it, deed reference, that's all in the prior plan, which I passed down the table here. And so you don't need all those waivers, and if we grant all those waivers, it looks like we're not doing our job, and we are in fact, and that information has all been produced and shouldn't have to be produced again, in my opinion.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? No? All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is GIA Realty Trust, request for continuance to April 1st. This was previously continued from November 12th and January 7th. Is there anybody here to speak for that? No? All right. I will make a motion to continue the GIA Realty Trust hearing to April 1st. Have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next item of the agenda is Town of Wolfeboro Municipal Electric Department public hearing for scenic road tree trimming.
Oh, we got these.
Yep.
Yeah, so good evening. My name is Jeremy Mitchell with the Municipal Electric Department.
Could you turn the mic up to you?
Oh, sorry.
Jim.
And unfortunately, Jim Shannon's here with me too, who's a utility technician and oversees the tree crews. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get the PowerPoint up on the screen, so I assume you all have a copy of it.
Yes.
And he has copies to hand out too, if anybody would like one. So anyways, we are here tonight in hopes to gain your support and approval for our upcoming planned 2025 scenic road tree trimming project. This will be part of our scheduled maintenance for the 2025 cycle. Again, with that, we have a PowerPoint presentation. We'll just have to go over it page by page. That's all right. And we can get started on that, which will give you a little more detail on the project. So again, this is for scenic road tree trimming for Pleasant Valley Road, Port Hill Road, Stoneham Road, Jeunesse Farm Road, and Cotton Valley Road, just the dirt section of that. Right, and so we understand Pleasant Valley, Stoneham, Jeunesse Farm, Cotton Valley, Port Hill Road, and Port Hill Road are designated as scenic roads through the provisions set forth by RSA 231:157-158. And that reads, trees along the scenic road shall not be cut, damaged, or removed without prior written consent of the planning board or other designated municipal body. This pertains to trees within the highway right-of-way with a minimum circumference of 15 inches measured at a height of 4 feet from the ground. And so we have project details here. So all scenic road rules and procedures will be adhered to. All work will be performed in a safe manner both to the public and employees. Work will be achieved using an aerial bucket truck and associated equipment. All debris in any trimming location will be promptly removed and or disposed of properly. And traffic control will be utilized as needed in predetermined locations. And all the work will be conducted during daylight hours between 7 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. on weekdays only. So now we get the Pleasant Valley Road details. So on Pleasant Valley Road, for the tree removals, we are proposing to remove a total of 37 trees, which about a third of those are dead ash trees. And they're all most of them, a good portion of them are dead and are in danger of falling on our equipment, and all are encroaching on our facilities. And then there's just a few more pictures depicting the types of trees that we're going to be taking down and how close they are. So also Pleasant Valley Road, so the tree trimming on Pleasant Valley Road, we're proposing to aerial trim approximately 20,938 feet as part of our normal maintenance schedule. And again, there's some pictures depicting our lines and how closely they are to all the limbs and trees and whatnot. It certainly warrants some trimming. And if you continue on, we got Pork Hill Road details, which again, on Pork Hill Road, we're proposing to remove 37 trees, and on that, 26 of those are dead ash trees. And many of the rest are small in nature and are growing directly into our wire. And again, there's some more pictures depicting some of the trees that will be coming down. And then the trimming on Pork Hill Road, we are proposing to aerial trim approximately 8,181 feet as part of our normal maintenance schedule. And again, some pictures depicting our lines going through the limbs and what needs to come down. All right, now, for the next three roads, Stoneham Road, Jeunesse Farm, and Cotton Valley, we will not be cutting anything over that 15-inch circumference. So we're just going to do normal maintenance trimming on those three roads, aerial trimming only, no tree takedowns. So on Stoneham Road, we are proposing to only aerial trim approximately 10,046 feet as part of our normal maintenance schedule. And again, you get to see some pictures of our lines running through the limbs. Jeunesse Farm, we will be aerial trimming approximately 1,240 feet. And again, there's some pictures there. And we got Cotton Valley details. So on Cotton Valley, we are proposing the aerial trim only approximately 4,341 feet. And again, some pictures depicting our lines and the limbs that need to come down. Now, in closing, trimming trees is the #1 deterrent of nuisance outages. The municipal election department is committed to reliable service, customer satisfaction, and safety of the public, as well as WMED employees. We believe that trimming trees is a pivotal part of the integrity and reliability of our electric grid. We hope for your support tonight, and thank you for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer some, or Jim can help me out with that too. So.
You say that you're going to cut a certain number of trees with 15 centimeter inch circumference at 4 feet.
Correct.
Do you cut things that are smaller than that because they're a problem?
We will, yes. There are some that, especially on Pork Hill Road, there's a lot that is growing right up into our primary. So if that's the case, then we will end up taking those as well.
I'm assuming this type of project, you'll be using an outside contractor to do this. You guys wouldn't be doing this yourselves, right?
That's correct, yes. Yep.
Any other questions from the board?
And did our tree warden go through and look at what was supposed to be dead?
He did, and you should have that letter. If you don't, I have copies of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the back.
Yep. It was in the packet. Any other questions from the board? All right, let's open for public comment. I will start with a letter that was sent to me earlier today from Suzanne Ryan. She writes, on behalf of Stoneham Road, please remind the department that the beauty of this area is the canopy of the treetops. Please preserve as much as possible. And would please mention RSA 231:172, shade and ornamental trees, be they cut or even pruned or removed, require written notice 45 days by mail in advance of the work, and provide name of contact person to schedule in-person discussion as to the work to be done prior to. She is particularly concerned about 2 of a couple hundred-year-old trees, as they are shade plus boundary trees. She asks that you be careful not to be too aggressive and not to open up too much to just to do enough for line safety. Would anybody else from the public like to comment? Please approach the microphone. Could you come up to the mic? Thank you.
My name is Eric Kime. I live up on Stoneham Road, and I wondered to know when they did this routine maintenance last.
Could you come up to the mic? Thank you.
Yeah, so that was around 2017, the last time we did any maintenance trimming up there. Yeah, we basically try to.
If you could please speak into the mic, because people on YouTube want to hear it as well.
I said presumably they would cut it so it would last 8 years until they come back and do it again, roughly, if it was in 17.
It's hard to say. I know that on the road I live on, it's not necessarily regular, and of course it has to do with climatic conditions and how quickly the trees grow. It's hard to say whether we're going to have dry years or wet years. Or
Well, was there any kind of hearing or discussion the last time they did it?
as far as I know, there's a hearing every time.
And there was no objection from the people that lived up there?
I don't know if there was objection or not, but it certainly got approved.
So the board approved it?
The planning board would have approved it. I was not sitting on the board at the time, so I can't tell you firsthand, but I'm certain that it would have been approved, whatever was done would have been approved by the board.
But you don't know if there was any public comment?
I don't know. You'd have to go back and look at the minutes.
You know, if they did trimming up there and there was objection by the public, the board then went ahead and approved it anyhow. It's going to end up something less than desirable.
I can't predict that.
I don't know what routine trimming means. It's kind of nebulous.
I guess it's up to the electric department to describe a balance between aesthetics and functionality.
So with our specs, for the most part, we've got 20 feet, 10 foot on either side of that line. Ground to sky. Now, we don't always do ground to sky because the canopy is in question. And I know it's a beautiful canopy, especially Stoneham Road. Stoneham Road has not had a thorough trimming in 20 years. 20 years. But we have gone up there and we've done some things.
If you could speak, you can take the mic out of the holder if you'd like.
Stoneham Road hasn't had a full right-of-way maintenance trim in probably 20 years. It needs to be done badly. We're not going to take any major trees down whatsoever on Stoneham Road, but there are a lot of trees that need trimming back from our wires. To answer your question, I have not been in front of the planning board for Stoneham Road because we've never done a full maintenance trim. That's what we're here for now.
Is there another example
If you could speak into the mic.
of what a full maintenance trim looks like?
You could take the most recent road that we've done is Middleton Road, where the armory is. You could take a ride up there and see.
It's really difficult for people on YouTube to hear if you're not handing the mic back and forth.
Don't get on the desk, please.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I was wondering if,
Oh, Middleton Road. If you want a good idea of what the maintenance trimming would look like, that's completed, that's most recent, would be Middleton
I
Road.
think it would be prudent. I was a board member at least.
It would be really helpful if you could speak into the mic.
To have a board member look at Middleton Road, maybe with a resident of Stone Road, and see what it looks like. A full, you know, when someone says a full maintenance cut, it sounds like it's extreme.
Well, so,
If you're gonna cut it to last 20 years, or something,
It's a 10-year, we like to do a 10-year plan. Some of the scenic roads we have not.
well, I've seen examples of cutting, I can't tell you where, but when they get done, it looks like a buzz cut that you get in a barber shop.
and would that have been in Wolfeboro?
No, I can't tell you where it was, but I mean, you know, I've seen it when they just go in willy-nilly.
Yeah, so I know that in other towns or other cities where you've got contractors that use the term, I've heard it many times, they say clearance, not appearance, because they cut back very aggressively, because their goal is to make it very open and safe for the wires. But I have confidence in our electric department that they are not as aggressive as that. They are very considerate of the trees, and I think if you, as was suggested, if you go up Middleton Road, which was the last one that was done this year, you can see an example of that firsthand if you like.
Yeah, I would like that. And could I do that before you make a final decision?
Well, the other thing you need to keep in mind is that the statute just applies to scenic roads, and there are certain roads in the town that are scenic roads and other roads that are not. And so if it's not, what?
Middleton is not a scenic road?
It's not a scenic road.
Well, I don't know how that,
But it would give you
It
an
takes a
idea
vote
of,
of the town to designate a scenic road. It's a vote at town meeting. And the purpose of the statute is to provide additional protection to certain roads in town.
well, then maybe a full maintenance cut isn't appropriate for Stoneham Road. I mean, if you're doing it to a road that's not a scenic road, should you be doing the same thing to a road that is?
I would say you should be more concerned about a scenic road than one that isn't.
Well, that's why they have special regulations for scenic roads versus the road that isn't. Am I,
If I may.
Sure.
It is just for the integrity of our wire and equipment that runs through the roads. I mean, we do not cut Stoneham Road as far as we would as even Beach Pond Road. It does depend on where we're at, but I got to tell you that Stoneham Road needs to be trimmed. We have some dangerous things happening. It needs to be trimmed.
should it be trimmed less each time you trim it than any other road?
I can honestly say we'll only cut what we need to cut for the integrity of our equipment.
Well, I just have concerns about what it's going to look like. If it's been 20 years and they plan to cut it again, and theoretically, well, they say 10 years, but it's going to be 20 years, it's going to be cut a lot. And it's not going to look like it does now. And I say you can't cut anything, have it look the same way, but it just seems to me that it's going to, basically they're treating it like any other road.
I think the point of this discussion is they're not treating it like any other road. As Mr. Murray had said, it's not like any other road because it is protected as a scenic road.
Well, he just said they were going to cut it to protect their wires.
There will be some cutting to protect the wires, that's
Yeah.
correct.
I mean, that's the whole point of this. But if they're going to do this full cut like they did on Middleton, I don't know what that looks like. I'd still like to look at it.
Well, I guess perhaps it's the terminology full cut, because full cut means that they will go and do the full maintenance that's required. But I would expect, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the full cut on the scenic road might be less aggressive than it would be on a non-scenic road.
Okay.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. That's all you can do. I'd still like to look at Middleton Road.
It's a public road, you can go there anytime you like.
No.
All right, any other questions from the public? Please.
I'm Jonathan Hopewell. I'm on Jennings Farm Road. I just wanted to check and see if the right-of-way is going to be cut. Okay. Just checking.
Ann Blodgett, I live off Pleasant Valley Road. I did see, and I'm not sure, Roger and Peter may be more familiar. Along Pleasant Valley Road, there is conservation land, and I want to make sure you're aware of it. Sometimes dead trees or wildlife habitats. So that's one point I wanted to make. About 10 years ago, through our land, the electric department has a right-of-way or easement or whatever it is. They came through, and it looked like a war zone. At the time, Barry and Rob were involved, and they came down to look at it, and they admitted it was a mess, a real mess. They had to come back and reclaim the area. So my question is, based on that experience, if you use a third-party contractor, is there supervision to make sure that what you're telling us tonight is in fact fulfilled?
So yes, there absolutely is supervision over our contractors. We pay attention to what they're doing on a daily basis, and that actually falls on Jim, so absolutely.
Any other public comment? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Somebody like to make a motion?
I move to accept the scenic road tree trimming plan that's presented to us.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion?
I would just add that, the testimony we heard here and everything, to keep in mind that they have had our tree warden go out and look at these. So I feel comfortable, moving forward with this, and that they are aware these are the scenic roads, and it's a much less aggressive cut than on a normal town road. I think we've taken that all into consideration as the municipal electric department.
I would also suggest that 10 years ago, in the plan for cutting trees on Pleasant Valley Road, no one anticipated the decimation of the ash trees. And it may end up being that there's some other blight that comes in and kills another bunch of trees. So it is not something which you know in advance necessarily as to what's happening. I don't think the ash borers were in New Hampshire 10 years ago.
No, and can I say that when you do have an ash tree that's dead, it goes dead really quick? And I had to have one taken down in my backyard, and it was literally explosive as they were cutting it in pieces. It was very dangerous, to the point of the owner yelled at the guy that was in the bucket to cutting like that. And he's like, I'm not doing anything. That's very dangerous when those things come down willy-nilly into the street around you. So some of these things just need to be taken care of. I know it's a tree and it's sad, but we need to do the right thing.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Jonathan Streeter and Stephen Marino, boundary line adjustment, 545 and 543 Forest Road, tax map 199-12 and 199-13, case 2025-03. I see Randy's here to speak to it.
Good evening. Randy Tatro for the applicant, Norway Plains. Came before the board back in November on a preliminary for this. It's a minor lot line adjustment that's located up near the old airport on what's called Forest Road Extension now. It's a private part of that was left when the airport was developed. We went over, there's Jonathan Streeter is one applicant, and Steve Marino and his wife, Andrea Scott Robson, own the other property. This lot line adjustment stems from the need to try to separate a common leach field well situation on two 1960 lots that were created originally up there. to try to get the utilities on their own property. It results in a small 585 square foot swap, even swap of land, located down by where the private road is now. Originally, as we went over in the previous meeting, these lots were created without frontage. They were on just a right-of-way from the end of Forest Road all the way up to the original lots in this area. Lot 1, 2, and 3. 2 and 3 are the ones, the subject lots that we're dealing with. Lot 1 was the old seaplane lot. It had still the 25-foot right-of-way. That shows up on our plan. One of the questions the board had originally was who had right-of-ways and were they properly noted on the plan with the books and pages. We did add that. So there's an existing right-of-way that they all had that I've noted down in that area that accessed all those lots. Additionally, when these lots were developed, there were reciprocal access easements. This is the seaplane lot area that gives access to this lot over here, 19911. The other two lots had reciprocal easements to access over each other's property. There was another little change that took place, I want to say in the early 2000s. There was a White Mountain plan. When the airport was originally subdivided, it resulted in a couple of the lots along the lake getting little pieces of land added to their lot. Remember we went over that the first time? And that was the reason for some of this irregularly shaped area that was added to it. I did have to ask for a waiver to a form factor in this case because this lot is fine, it meets it, but the pigtail that's on this lot is, well, I have the form factors on there. It's over the 35 to begin with, and it goes up slightly when we do this little jog, because every time you add an extra length on there, it brings the form factor up. But in this case, I think there's justification for it based on the leach field getting on their own land. The leach field that's located on this property serviced both lots. This gentleman is most likely going to go ahead and do a smaller leach field in that area just for his. The leach fields are quite a ways away from the lake, so in this particular situation, there doesn't seem to be any problem with that part of it. Again, it's essentially to try to separate the utilities. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else other than the right-of-ways that were asked for. Oh, conversation with the town planner, which you probably got information on, who wasn't 100% used to a reconfiguration of non-conforming lots that you guys have in your regulations that is instituted in this case. Because normally, if you make non-conforming frontage less, you need a variance situation. And in this case, in that section, 174-7D, you're allowed to reduce the frontage if you have a valid reason for doing so. And as we just discussed, there wasn't any frontage to begin with on these lots, and the frontage that did end up being called frontage on Forest Road Extension is not used in the normal fashion because people don't even use it to access their property. They use the right-of-ways. So I had a conversation with Shanna about that, and she looked at the ordinance and agreed. That is what we discussed the first time, so I'm hoping you guys stick with that. And if the board has any questions for me, that'd be
Is 199 getting a new well?
Yeah, question.
Yeah, 199 is going to get a new well up in this area. Right now, they're still sharing it until we get approval. And you know, the well regulations, as some of you might know, have been shifted a bit from the septic designers to the well drillers. And it had to do with non-conforming placements. And so now what would happen is the well driller would pick the appropriate spot there, and then we got the design around that. But I think the goal for Mr. Streeter is to have his own water as well. Yeah.
Do they want this approved whether or not Lot 13 gets its septic approved?
Yeah, because right now he can use this one with just the tank. You know, it's just big. You know, it's bigger than what he needs. But the plan is for him to adjust it accordingly. He's in the process of getting a shoreline permit for a garage area down here. So that's part of that whole thing, Roger. But they want to have this separated so that depending on how long or when he gets his new system in, he can use that one. And then Mr. Marino can use his own. No one as well.
Do you have an approval for Mr. Marino's?
Ms. Marino had a previous approval for that, that he may or may not revise if he gets approval with this. It was done by, not done by us, but it's valid approval.
And what's the timing on the replacement for Mr.?
He's going to have to do that as soon as Mr. Streeter makes the move to change his as well. Right now, there's still an easement in force, you know, so they can use it until they switch. I think this is the first element of that switching. Does that answer your question, Vaughn? I don't think there's a set date yet.
Well, I would say that the issue of frontage or anything is irrelevant based on the fact that they're trying to get utilities into the right place.
Yeah, I think normally the frontage for something like this would create the lot and the spacing for the lot and the access for the lot, and that's already there. Yeah.
So that doesn't seem to be an issue, and so these lots really aren't changing anything, and probably there's nothing that's going to be built in the area that moves to the left on the lot that's up on the frontage.
Right, it's on the Marino side.
Exactly, stay the same. So
Yeah.
it's not really making any change.
Nope. If they do, they'd be subject to the shoreline permit process. But right now, it's mostly about, they get approval to do this, then they can make their own adjustments on the septic and the wells. They're going to keep the easement, you know, they can keep the easements in force until they do that. And then most likely, they'll ask for a release on those.
Any other comments from the board? Questions? All right. I'd make a motion to accept this application as complete.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. We'll open the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak to this application?
Is there a list to read of the waivers?
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Yeah, I'll make a motion to,
Yeah, to accept the waivers?
yes.
Grant the waivers.
We'll make a motion to accept the waivers as requested.
Second.
Let me go back here. The waivers to section 174-7D4, 5, and 6, requiring that existing and proposed topographic contours at 2-foot intervals, location of groundwater and percolation tests, soil mapping types, slopes, and boundaries to be shown on the plan, and waiver from section 175-53-2, regulating standardized lot shape for tax map 199-013, only due to lot configuration previously approved by the planning board.
Seconded.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the boundary line adjustment.
As part of that, we need to set the setbacks. And I would suggest
Say that again, Roger? What?
we need to set the setbacks, what they are to be on the reconfigured lots.
You can keep them the same or change them, yeah.
And I'd like to suggest a 50-foot setback from the water, 15-foot side setback, and a 30-foot setback from the road.
Yeah, and that's what you have in the shorefront zone, so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Roger, would you like to make a motion to include that?
I will make a motion to include that as part of your motion.
All right. My motion is duly amended.
And I second that.
Vaughn seconds.
And it is shown on the plans already.
Any further discussion? All right. The included in the motion is the recommendations for approval. The following plan, as amended to the date of this approval, is hereby incorporated into the approval. Plan 1, Boundary Line Adjustment Plan, 545 and 543 Forest Road, Wolfeboro, Carroll County, New Hampshire. Owners Jonathan Streeter and Stephen Marino, prepared by Norway and Plains Associates, Incorporated. Number 2, the applicant shall revise the plan to include a stamp seal of a certified licensed land surveyor. 3, the applicant shall submit a final plan to the Office of Planning and Development for review prior to recording. 4, condition 4, the final approved and reviewed boundary line adjustment plan shall be recorded at the County Registry of Deeds per RSA 676:3, Roman numeral 3, within 6 months of the approval date. Failure to comply with this requirement shall render the boundary line adjustment approval null and void. 5, if granted, the applicant shall add a note to the final recorded plan indicating the approved waiver from the subdivision regulations. 6, the applicant shall be responsible for the setting of monumentation, the submittal of certificate of monumentation, and updating the plan sets, including the original stamps and signatures from an LLSCWS and licensed septic designer. 7, final drawings, each individual sheet in every set of drawings must be stamped and signed by the land surveyor, engineer, or architect responsible for the site plans. The applicant shall submit the following: 2 sets of 24-inch by 36-inch black line final approved plans, 1 set of 11 by 17 final approved plans, 1 electronic version in PDF format. Recommendation 8, the applicant shall be responsible for the payment of all recording fees. Number 9, all documentation submitted in the application package by the applicant and any requirements imposed by other agencies are part of this approval unless otherwise updated, revised, clarified in some manner, or superseded in full or in part. In the case of conflicting information between documents, the most recent documentation and this notice herein shall generally be determining. And lastly, 10, the following appeals language shall be added to the notice of decision. Pursuant to RSA 677:15, any person aggrieved by any decision of the planning board may appeal the decision to the Carroll County Superior Court within 30 days after the date upon which the board voted to approve or disapprove the application, or to the ZBA pursuant to RSA 676:5, Roman numeral 3, within 30 days following the date the board made its decision. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you, Randy.
Actually, this is a 22 by 34, which we don't do very often, but I don't think that's going to bother the approval.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want any finding of facts on that?
If you could, Roger, that would be helpful.
That this boundary line adjustment conforms to the requirements of Section 175-55 of the zoning ordinance, Section C1, reconfigure of non-conforming lots. It does not increase the number of lots. It results in the same number of lots, and that it enables each of the lot owners to have their well and septic on their own properties as opposed to jointly. And for that reason, I believe it conforms to the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Roger.
I'm not as good as Kathy, but
The next item on the agenda is Wolfeboro Area Recreation Association Site Plan Review, amendment to the 2023 Site Plan Approval, 10 Trotting Track Road, Tax Map 163-6, Case 2025-04.
And I'm stepping down because I'm on the board of the NIC.
Hello, my name is Jessica Jacobson. I am here as the civil engineer. I'm from Wilcox and Barton, Inc. I'm presenting on behalf of the NIC, and Holly is the representative of the NIC who's also present. We are here for an amended site plan. The amended site plan is regarding a revision to the building. The building was able to be a little bit wider based on donor feedback and funding. That wider building allows for an elevated track, so that way it takes away the safety concern of the track being on the main level, and it also opens up the recreational facility a bit by having that as a second level. So with that amended site plan, the building is a little bit wider. Like I said, the footprint went from 20,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet with affiliated drainage, and the building is placed in approximately the same footprint. We did receive the planner's review letter yesterday, and with that, we understand that outstanding items listed are covered or are included via granted waivers that were approved and granted last year. It's our intention to maintain those waivers. There are, with that being said, there are 3 outstanding items that are not via the granted waivers, and I'm happy to discuss those today. And I'm also happy to add those to the final plans. So with the amended site plan, one item that the planner flagged was the special flood hazard area. And the special flood hazard area was not shown on the plans that were submitted and that are shown today, the Turner Group plans, and it is therefore outstanding. We have confirmed that the project area is not located within the flood hazard area, and that's per the FEMA for Met Maps. With an effective date of March 19th, 2013. We are happy to add that to the final plans, to add that note that it is not in the special flood hazard area. The planner's letter also reflects snow storage. The snow storage is not shown currently on this plan that was submitted, but I have added it to the plan that I brought here today, and I'm happy to add it to the final plan as well. And then the final outstanding, so the third and final outstanding item that we have found from the planner's letter is regarding parking and circulation. The parking lots are to be maintained and unchanged for the proposed building construction, inclusive of this revised building footprint with this amendment. The building has a maximum capacity of 300 people. The nearby parking lot has space for 280 vehicle parking spaces, but there are also 2 other lots on the property. All 3 lots collectively have spaces for over 450 parking spaces, which therefore complies with the parking needs for this building, and that maintains the parking layout in the parking lots as the previous approval from December 5th, 2023 includes. So like I mentioned, the waivers that were granted on December 5th, 2023 are proposed to be maintained, and those were the 3 outstanding items that we have found and have responded to for tonight's meeting, and we are happy to include those in the final plans. The snow storage, which is something that's pictorially added, is on the southern side of the building and also at the rear of the building. And they don't have any concerns for snow. They are an existing facility that are operating and do snow clearing. And with it being winter conditions, they don't have any issues doing it alongside the lacrosse field, not over it, but alongside, and then to the rear of the building. And that will be the intention for this proposed building in this amended building from 2023. I'm happy to go over any waivers and or any questions that you may have.
Can you show on your plans where that snow is going to be stored?
Yeah. Yes, I can. So it's in purple. You'll see that there's snow storage that runs along this walkway so that this can get pushed downwards and it can be pushed along the trail. And then also, if needed, there's room in the back that's delineated via a dashed line that can be held right here. And we are happy to add this with the final plan to include the snow storage and the mapping and parking calculations.
So there was some question about the fire cisterns being in the setback.
Yes, thank you for flagging that. I said that was an item to confirm. My apologies. We do have the cistern on the plans. The cisterns are below ground, so it was our understanding that they weren't considered structures, and also their adjacency to the road is for emergency access for the fire department. We would certainly be open to any preference that the fire department and/or planning department has, and we can adjust and shift that as needed. But I do want to clarify that the cisterns are below ground and they're located close to trotting track in order to be accessible via trotting track road for the emergency situations that are needed.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, so I have a question about the stormwater. In the previous application, it was gone over relatively quickly, and there's concern, I understand, from the community about the ability to handle stormwater, especially as it relates to potential discharge down onto Center Street. Can you speak to that?
Yes, certainly. Thank you for the question. So the stormwater that was initially proposed in December of 2023 included a subsurface infiltration system, which is fully below ground. Kind of consider it as like little half circles of chambers that hold water and infiltrate the water downwards. That was proposed, but then in the meeting minutes, it was discussed that they may not need that for the building based on the size and nature of the site in the facility. So at the time, that was not an approval item from 2023. With that being said, the building has, like I said, become slightly wider, the footprint slightly bigger, and with that, the affiliated drainage has been remodeled to confirm the adequacy of the drainage. So the current proposal is building drip edges, which is directly adjacent to the building, surrounding the building where walkways and concrete pads are not present. The building drip edges are designed up to extreme storm events, including the 50 and a 100-year storm event, and it shows that overtopping does not occur. So basically what would happen is the buildings are guttered where they need to be for safety and for pedestrian travel. They would lead to the building drip edges around the corners, because it would not be along the frontage because of pedestrian travel, and they would be directly adjacent to the building in order to infiltrate the flow, which would be groundwater recharge, which would then discard into the ground, and it would not leave the site. And that is modeled up to the 100-year storm event, to confirm.
Thank you. And you had mentioned the parking plan had adequate spacing for the use of the building. I would expect, though, that the parking plan would need to have adequate parking for the entire site, not just the building.
Yes, so that is a valid point. So that would be, so the entire facility with the building being a max capacity of 300, that's understanding that all activities are indoor, which would be winter, which theoretically wouldn't have any field use at that time. I can speak to it in default to Holly if there's further questions on that parking usage, but essentially the parking is to remain unchanged from what was approved in 2023 with the parking, so no parking lots are proposed to be changed, but I'm happy to speak to it and default to Holly for any operation questions.
Yeah, my concern is that certainly this is, I assume that this isn't just a winter use building.
No.
And therefore there might be people on the ball fields or wherever.
During summer.
And therefore you need perhaps additional parking.
Right, and I'll default to Holly for that for the summer operations.
That's a great question, one that we've considered.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, sorry. I'm Holly Williams O'Coin, the Executive Director of the NIC.
Thank you.
I've been at the NIC for 15 years now and have certainly seen quite a few events that have attracted a lot of people, including the Relay for Life Cancer Society event. We have a farmer's market there every Thursday that fills just about the main parking lot, and we have opening day for Cal Ripken. So what we do when scheduling things is we make sure that whatever the parking capacity is going to be, we don't overschedule. So you're right, there could be several games going on. Well, we might have something going on in the facility, but our scheduler knows not to overbook because we know we've got limited parking. Excuse me. The other thing is we were going to have an event in this facility that we knew would be max capacity. We would close the other areas of the park because we would want to be able to keep up with the number of people at our facility.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And so while we're on the topic of parking, I see here that you've relocated the handicap parking spaces to the end of the row, closest, I guess, to the walkways there. My understanding, though, is that this is, the parking lot will remain unchanged. It's a rough gravel lot at the moment. So I'd question the ability of somebody who might be in a wheelchair, for example, to get across that lot to your sidewalks.
Yes, so with the previous 2023 approval and with work with the NIC, it was proposed that that is going to be a paved lot, and with that, it'll be accessing for the ADA access will be located as close to the building as possible. So that is, there's no new proposals for the lot outstanding with that paving that has already been approved but has not gone through.
I'm not sure I follow.
So the parking lot is gravel at this time. The proposal as needed per building code is to show the ADA spaces, the accessible spaces close to the building. That has been shown. It's understood that it's gravel at this time, and the intention is to keep it gravel for now. The funding is for the building, but the approval in the past has included that it can be repaved or it can be paved because it's gravel right now. And that at the time could be included to enhance accessibility.
Yeah, so I would question the validity of calling them handicap parking spaces if you can't get from the space into the building.
I understand what you mean with it being existing as gravel.
Yes.
I can default to Holly again and we can talk about scheduling on that resurfacing, but that was not something that I'm aware of in terms of set scheduling.
And then the next question I had was, I know at the previous approval, and just I think it was December of 2023, there was some discussion of the lighting for the building. And I think the board generally agreed with the approach that you'd presented to have lighting on the building, but we don't see it recorded anywhere. And certainly it's not shown on any of the plans that you've shown today. So perhaps that's something that could be added to the plan so that it's defined?
Yes, and also with the approval, with the 2023 recorded approval, it was about providing a cut sheet as well. And that would be something when you're getting towards the building permit and when we have those cut sheets, those designs of the lighting, we can certainly have that and maintain that as an approval condition as well. And we can place them conceptually on the building.
And then what goes along with that is there was also some discussion on the finishes that would be used on the exterior of the building. I see on the elevations here, you have some colors, but it doesn't define what the materials are. Has that been defined? Is it just a steel building?
Yes, so that would be, yes, just a steel building. I know that the coloring has been discussed, as you say, in the renderings as well. You can see them, and then the windows have also been discussed. But in terms of the material, Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just steel with latent metal panels? Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
It's the latent metal panels for the exterior. There's also the entrance. Is that what you're about to touch upon? The entrance, just to go in terms of the aesthetics, and my apologies, our architect was unable to attend, but he does have that detailing. The entryway is going to have, I'm not going to say it as eloquently as an architect, but it's going to have the beams that look as if they're cantilevered a bit. They come at an angle. It's going to be more of a wood canopy to enter in, and then you'll be able to enter in through the center with the sliding doors. So with the sliding doors, the wood exterior, you're going to have a nicer canopy to enter upon.
Has there been any consideration given to landscaping, either immediately around the building or anywhere else on the site? So, for example, to screen some of the features that might not be as desirable to see?
So the mechanical areas, like if there's mechanical pads or mechanical areas that are supporting the building, that will be fenced for both safety and it will screen a bit. The building drip edges are directly adjacent to the building, which do discourage plantings because you don't want anything becoming dead or prohibiting the infiltration. You don't want anything prohibiting the groundwater recharge there. But with that being said, I mean, the facility is existing today and is existing in good nature, so they would maintain that. But that is one of the waivers that was granted for a landscaping design and plan, just based on the nature of this amendment.
All right, so my concern generally with the things that I've mentioned is that I know that when we granted this in December of 2023, there was a rush to meet a deadline for funding. And so I'm concerned now that there's not a lot of detail on what you've provided this evening, and perhaps it needs a closer look. Does anybody on the board have any other comments?
Well, based on the topography, this building is very much down in a hole off of Trotting Track Road, so it won't be really visible from a public way. So I'm less concerned about
That is
those
correct in
standards
terms of visibility.
and even the building materials, because it literally is, down in at least a 30-foot hole.
That is valid in terms of visibility, in terms of the building height as well.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I just wanted to speak to that. For those of you who've been to the NIC, I'm sure you see that we maintain a very outdoor landscape, and that's taken into consideration since the day this facility was planned. And I, as a native of Wolfeboro, very much appreciate all the people who try to keep the quaint New England feel here. When we came in front of the planning board in 2023, we confirmed that we're going to keep the colors and design similar to what we have now. We don't try to make anything stand out. We try to blend everything in. We want it to be an outdoor environment feel with yes, this will be a big building, but like Vaughn said, it runs adjacent to Trotting Track Road, so that whole side of the building will basically be, you won't see it. The backside faces the berm of the NIC, and as she mentioned, the fencing around it will be a neutral color. Anything else, we do hope to have a nice welcoming entryway similar to what we have at our existing facility, and have beautiful landscapes similar to what you see when you pull into the NIC now. That beautiful stonework that we have all over the park, that's what we continue to maintain through our facility. So I take a lot of pride in that, and we'll continue to carry that throughout the design of the facility indoors and out. Thank you.
Do you have any information on utility hookups?
Yes, so that was, and I do understand, that is the December 5th, 2023. There are 3 waivers that pertain to utilities that will be detailed and come in through the building permit, understanding that this is an existing facility and we're amending what was granted waivers from on December 5th. So the building permit will provide further information on the utilities for this additional building at this existing facility.
Any other comments from the board? All right, so I would suggest that a lot more detail is needed on the plan here. We don't have architectural plans or landscaping as we've described. The utilities aren't shown, the water and sewage. We talked about the drip edge and the infiltration. I don't see detail for that. The lighting that was discussed more than a year ago, we still don't have the cut sheets. I guess that decision hasn't been made.
And one item just to note on that.
Yeah.
The architectural plans were included, the renderings and then the floor plans. So when speaking to the architect today, his inquiry was, what additional architectural plans do you need? Or what architectural information do you need? He provided the elevations and the floor plans, so his inquiry still stands.
I would think that, for example, the lighting would be part of the architectural.
So that was a separate line item. Mm-hmm. So the architectural is listed alone. Mm-hmm. So his inquiry is what architectural information is needed. The lighting still remains as a cut sheet approval condition, yep. And that is still the intention, that we certainly are happy. The lighting will be minimal, that's added because the walkways are lit and the parking's already lit. Mm-hmm. So the lighting is purely for the building and can be provided as that approval condition as the cut sheet. So I think our question still is outstanding about architectural as well.
What about signage?
Signage is a good question. That is one of the December 5th, 2023 waivers regarding funding, but is the signage going to change? I know Holly has more of the vision on that.
I would say as far as signage is concerned, we'll probably just have a name if we name on the front of the building to match the existing signage at the park. And there might just be some small directional signs in regards to directing people to handicap accessible areas to get into the facility.
I'm sorry, what I meant with signage with regard to the architectural plan, would there be a sign on the front of the building, for example?
That's undetermined at that point. That all kind of relates to fundraising and whether or not we end up naming this facility. If we do, it certainly wouldn't be obnoxious. It would be a very appropriately sized sign, probably even on the front of the door somewhere. I'm not going to, in the design it says the Nick on the top just to, for fundraising purposes. But we don't expect to have some big, neon sign on the facility. So.
And also to piggyback off of that, there are sign permits, right? If there were to be an added sign for building mounted signage is a permit as well?
Yeah, I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the architectural set goes, the materials should be labeled. We should know what we have colors right now and some lines that indicate.
Yeah. So the latent metal paneling, labeling those in terms of the materials on the side. And the canopy, the wood canopy. Okay, that's understandable with revised architectural plans for adding that information.
Peter, did you have a comment?
Well, this is basically just an amendment to the original plan, and basically the building is being expanded by 25%.
That's correct.
And so in some ways, the approval that was given before is sort of a blanket approval, and all we're doing is saying, yes, you can build it 25% larger. And so I don't know, I think that when you look at the original approval we gave, it had the lighting, it had all this kind of stuff. There are a few things that should be added, as in what it's going to be built with and, what it's going to look like. But I think basically it is something that is, if we approved it before, it should be about the same, 25% bigger.
Yeah,
That's correct.
My concern, Peter, is that if we approve this tonight, then the information we receive tonight will be the controlling documentation, and it will supersede what was done previously. And there's much less detail on the plan that we're looking at tonight.
So I do want to note that the level of detail on this plan is the same as what was provided in 2023. The pictorial color-coded plan looks the same, is the same level of detail in terms of utilities, and the waivers that were granted in 2023 are the same waivers that we're proposing to maintain. So I understand that there are 3 outstanding items that weren't covered via those granted waivers, which were special flood hazard area, snow storage, and parking calculations. And those are certainly items we can add to the final plan, which we do need to provide to the town for signature and sign
One
off.
additional note on the plan of review is, with regard to parking, is to submit a floor plan to determine a place of assembly for emergency reasons and fitness parking for requirements per 175-136. It says a parking plan should be submitted overviewing all uses on the lot and the required parking. It also mentions access with regard to E911, requiring all buildings on the lot to have proper E911 numbering. This should be approved prior to the building permit submittal for the project. That can certainly be a condition of approval for this evening, but I just want to make note of it.
Yep, that's certainly correct. And then regarding the parking, the existing facility exists today with the parking that exists today. The parking is supporting the building that was approved in 2023. It's 25% bigger, exactly like Peter mentioned. And the parking calculations with the max building capacity with this revised building can certainly be noted as on the final plans to confirm the parking adequacy.
I just want to add something real quickly is that, so the only reason, like Peter mentioned, that we're coming back to you today and not completely with the full package is only because we went wider with the building. We got the original design approved by you guys, and we really appreciate that support. But right now we've gotten the funding to go bigger, and we have this opportunity to move forward the project. So it's kind of funny to come back mid-design, right? So we're trying to solidify all of these answers for you. So when we come back for the building permit, they'll all be done. So it's kind of a weird thing that we came back, but as the fundraiser for the project, we had an opportunity to go bigger. We had people who were interested in making it bigger and better. So here we are today, and it might look messy, but all of these things are buttoned up, and I assure you, we've been working diligently with our team to get them all. We want to come back and satisfy all this and do all the rules. I mean, the Nick is a nonprofit. We've got a great reputation, and we want to maintain that and maintain the integrity that we have. So it just, I guess, to me, it feels like a, informal presentation because we didn't expect to have this, opportunity to come back. So we're kind of just throwing ourselves out there mid fundraising, mid design, and it feels, a little out there, but we're doing the right things, and we assure you we'll come back with all of these answers to satisfy the rules you guys have in place. We want to make sure we're doing our due diligence, but this is just a stepping stone so we can continue to fundraise. We've only got about $250,000 to go, and if we're successful with that, we'll be able to break ground this spring, which is really exciting. And they've got a lot of work to do between now and then, but we will make sure we do it all within accordance to what you're putting forth. So we appreciate the questions.
How much effort would it be to try to include most of the things that we've discussed this evening on the plan?
So we are detailing those as needed for the building plan, but the concern is the scheduling of the permitting. So for example, the funding in 2025 has been put on pause because the funding reached us to a point where we could get this larger building, this amendment, and we are maintaining the waivers that were granted on December 5th, 2023. So the level of detail is the same. The plans that are provided are the same in order to get to that next step in funding. And I definitely appreciate that background for fundraising because essentially, exactly like you said in December of 2023, it's a similar situation where we reached a point where we could now do this amended building. We are now permitting it to then do it. And then as we get the go-ahead, the rest of the funding comes through and the building permit with utilities can come through. So all of the utility questions, yes, we need those for the building permit and we need those in order to construct. So that is why there is that staggered approach with fundraising and with the building permit for the utilities.
All right, I sense that Roger wants to speak, so I'll open the public hearing.
Sorry.
I came here with a decided... Oh, yes, I'm Roger Murray. I came here with no intention of speaking, but I would like to point something out. Is this
A little closer, Roger.
I would like to point out one thing as a board member of the NIC, and that is that this was approved in December of 2023. And if you go back and you look at the file, maybe that wasn't as detailed as we might have liked because of the personnel and the planning department at the time. And maybe some things were overlooked, but it was approved. And this organization and these people should not be penalized because of failure on the part of the planning department.
Thank you. Would anybody else from the public like to speak?
Couple questions. It's probably not widely known, but it's a stone's throw from Lake Wentworth. So my question is, will there be permeable paving in this vast parking lot in the plan? What was approved before, I don't know, but was that considered? Was that part of the plan?
What's been approved and what's being considered this evening is to leave the parking lot as it is presently, which is...
But they alluded to the fact that they were given permission to pave it in the future, and I was wondering whether it was paved, whether that permission was as permeable or
my recollection is they weren't given permission to pave it, but they were considering paving it. Is that accurate?
For the handicapped area.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I heard tonight, so.
All I can say for certain is that this plan that we're bringing before you tonight does not include paving the parking lot. If and when we do so choose to move forward with that, we would come back. It would be a separate project. We're going to be digging up that parking lot to put this facility in. So that is not on the plan right now. I know that at one point, a board member worked to get the parking lot paved with recycled asphalt. I do believe that at that point it was brought to you guys. I'm not 100% sure. Again, if and when we do pave, we'll be coming back if that is not the case.
Thank you.
I'll speak to the existing ground cover as well. When you say gravel, a lot of times you think of it as pervious and that it's being changed with a resurfacing with recycled asphalt or just asphalt. One thing to note is the gravel paving, when it's used in a paved area, it has subgrade and it has base layers where the permeability really is not there. For example, the modeling curve number, so like the modeling of that gravel parking lot is very closely aligned with the parking lot impervious. So the intent of gravel as the term is, I think, a little bit misleading. So just want to be clear that there are sub-base layers that decrease any potential for infiltration with gravel parking lots. There is some, but it's not a pervious surface that's such as like pervious pavement that's meant to support infiltration.
Yeah, to be clear, the current gravel parking lot is considered an impervious surface. Right. Is that right?
Well, so we don't consider that pervious. And the shoreland, DES shoreland does not consider that pervious.
Yes.
Yes, impervious.
It's impervious.
That's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is impervious. Yes, so it would be still impervious.
Yes.
So there is one big change. You have a giant, probably metal roof on this structure, and it will shed water onto either side. And you talked about having drip edges, but we have no detail, and it's not even shown on this plan. I think it's a very important feature to capture the water coming off the roof.
Yes, so the roof line has not changed, to confirm. The height has. The slope of it. The slope of the roof has changed, the pitch of the roof, but yes, it is correct that it goes to either side. In the drainage memo, we discussed that it's a building drip edge directly adjacent to it, so it's a written description of it. I do agree it should be on the plan, and we can certainly add that. It is in the white space between the buildings and the sidewalks. It's directly adjacent to it, which is described in the drainage memo, but I do agree that should be on the plan, and we can certainly add that.
And usually it comes with a detail.
Yeah, so
Which
we've
I'm sure you
spec'd
can
that.
find very easily.
Yes, so with that being said, this plan provided by the Turner Group was provided with that funding with that funding reached for this building, and then we came in and designed the drainage to support that, to basically respond to the building as we did in 2023. We came in for this iteration, so we have that drainage designed, sized, and spec'd in the memo, but we will certainly add that to their plan so we can mend the two together.
Is there any other public comment or questions from the board?
John Barthelmess from Percy Drive. This is the first time I've been to a meeting for this project, and my apologies if it's all been worked out, but I'm just curious how much of the NIC will be available to the public while the construction's taking place?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. We will be beginning hopefully construction this spring as soon as everything's got full approval. We do not plan to close any areas of the facility during the entire construction. We will be fencing it off, obviously, for safety reasons, but we will not be closing any area besides the construction zone.
Good evening. My name is Frank Cartier, C-A-R-T-I-E-R. I live on Trotting Track Road. I appreciate the due diligence of the planning board in making sure that what's going to be constructed is going to be a building that's going to fit into our community and fit into the use of the NIC. I know a lot of people probably come up in front of the board and complain about things about, like the NIMBYs, the not in my backyard, right? Well, literally, this is in my backyard. I live at 62 Trotting Track Road. From most rooms in my house, I overlook the NIC. And, well, like I said, I am very appreciative of the deliberative and due diligence by the planning board. But I want to just stand up and say, please, in my backyard, this would be fantastic for our community. My wife and I bought our house there on Trotting Track Road, in large part of the fact that the NIC was there. We raised our 2 children there who are now gone off to college, and one's living in Boston. And one sign of springtime every year is the hearing, the kids running around in the ball fields and the coaches' whistles, and it's a great thing to hear. All right, spring has come, and the utilization of the NIC the year-round utilization of the NIC really is lacking. And a facility such as this, especially with the expansion of the building and the including of the raised track, I just want to say that I'm in full support of it. As a matter of fact, my wife had talked to Holly and said, hey, you guys should think of a raised track. And she's like, yeah, we already have. So anyways, I just want to say, again, please, in my backyard.
Thank you.
I'm Ronna Barthelmess, I'm at Percy Drive, and I want to just second what he just said. This kind of a facility, we moved here, but earlier in our marriage, we lived in an area where there was a massive community center where the Girl Scouts came, the ballet happened, the aerobics happened, all of the things happened, and it really does create a center for a community. And we back up to it, and we hear all those whistles and all of just what he's talking about. And so, huge support for this project.
I'm standing up here as a mom, Holly Williams O'Coin. I have a 5 and 8-year-old son who have more energy than anyone I've ever met. And oftentimes we have nowhere to go in the winter. So as a mom, this facility is overdue in our town, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it and appreciative to you guys for hopefully helping us move this forward. Thank you.
Any other public comment or questions from the board? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Close the hearing?
Oh, yes, let's close the public hearing. Thank you.
I do have a question. Do we have all the right paperwork here? Should we put as conditions some of the previous paperwork to be attached to it? Things that you think that are missing, like building elevations that are a little bit more detailed?
I think the answer to your question is that we don't have everything completely
things
laid
that
out.
actually have a scale, so we kind of know what size some of these things are. I don't want to say, oh, stop it because we got to wait for paperwork, or can we bring paperwork forward if we had it before and we don't have it now?
I would think we'd be able to make anything else we want to see a condition of approval. It would have to be presented to the department before it gets signed off on. Like as Roger had commented, a lot of these things were taken care of back in the original 2023 approval. We are really looking at an expansion of the building. I do agree that, what Vaughn had said about the drip edges and stuff there, the old plan did show a, drainage around the building there and stuff. It's not on the new one. We could have that, obviously condition that be added to the plan, which Aaron has said they would be happy to do those kind of things, add some of these items onto the plan before they're recorded, so.
And maybe a scale, because I can't even find a scale.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Well, I would just like to say that, the conditions of approval would be associated with showing drip edge, lighting diagrams on the final programs, perhaps building materials as well, and any other things that perhaps we're concerned about. But I think that, as Roger suggested, the plans presented and approved in 23 were basically what we're dealing with here.
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to have those three things as conditions to approve.
Okay.
Can we add a fourth of scale? There's no scale on the plan?
It's Peter's motion.
Peter, can we add scale? Add a scale, you have to say it, add a scale.
At scale.
Thank you.
All right, and the planner suggested some additional conditions, which are in our planner review. Peter, would you like to read them, or shall I?
You have them in front of you, I guess.
All right, I will, if you like. Peter, if you would consider adding these to your motion.
Yes, please.
So these are conditions to be met prior to signing of plans. The following plans as amended to the date of this approval are hereby incorporated into the approval. Plan 1, project title and address of the Nicholas J. Pernokas Recreation Park, Wolfeboro Recreation Center, 10 Trotting Track Road, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, prepared by the Turner Group, 27 Lock Road, Concord, New Hampshire. Plan is undated. Plan 2, front and field side elevation, red option. Nick Recreation Facility wide building, option 3. Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, TTG-5490, prepared by the Turner Group. Plan 3, rear and side elevation, red option, the Nick Recreation Facility, as previously mentioned. Plan 4, first floor plan, the Nick Recreation Facility, as previously mentioned. And lastly, Plan 5, second floor plan, the Nick Recreation Facility, as previously mentioned. Condition 2, plan changes are required prior to final drawing submittal. These should be amendments or submit the following additional information. A, architectural plans. B, landscaping plan. C, landscaping plan should include the required screening, if any. D, water, nothing is shown on the plan, please add. Sewerage, nothing is shown on the plan, please add. Utilities, nothing shown on the plan, please add information regarding electric and gas hookups. Special flood hazard area, nothing is shown on the plan, please add. Snow storage, not shown on the plan. There is some shown on the plan, as I understand. Is that right? You mentioned the lines earlier on the plan.
I added them for tonight's meeting.
Yes, so that is there.
But it will be for the final plan.
Yeah. Lighting, as we previously mentioned with the cut sheets, and the detail of the stormwater infiltration as we discussed this evening with the drip edges. Final drawings as signed and stamped by land surveyor engineer, our architect, with 2 sets of 24 by 36 black line approved plans, 1 set of 11 by 17, and 1 electronic PDF format. And all the documentation should be submitted in the application package by the applicant, and any requirements imposed by other agencies that are part of this approval unless otherwise updated, revised, clarified, or superseded in full or in part. In the case of conflicting information between documents, the most recent documentation in this notice shall be generally determining. And then further, conditions to be met after final approval, that erosion control shall be properly installed on site prior to site construction. Erosion control shall be properly maintained through construction. Any breaks or breaches shall be repaired within 48 hours of a storm event. Number 2, E911 will require all buildings on the lot to have proper numbering. Please have these approved prior to the building permit submittal for this project. Number 3, security required. I don't think that this is necessary for this one, but it says here, towns have moved away from requiring full security for the site plan build out because we're not in the business of being site contractors.
We can elect to omit that.
Huh?
We can elect to omit it.
Yes, I would admit that, the security requirement.
Not the,
Number 4, active and substantial development for this project is defined as construction of utilities and building, including foundation and weatherized structure. Internal fit-up is not required. These improvements must be started within 24 months of the planning board approval date in order to receive 5 years of vesting. For number 5, for in perpetuity vesting purposes under RSA 674:13, substantial completion for this project is defined as, quote, completion of the project, unquote. Snow storage shall be removed and stored such that drainage structures can function properly. Landscaping on the plans shall be maintained, and any dead or dying vegetation shall be replaced in a timely manner as long as the site plan remains valid. Number 8, outdoor lighting, including security lights, shall be downlit and shielded so no direct light is visible from adjacent properties or roadways. Number 9, other permits, all required municipal, state, and federal permits must be obtained prior to pre-construction meeting, including any driveway curb cut permit, NHDES area of alteration of terrain permit, stormwater permit, wetlands permits as appropriate, with copies of permits or confirmation of approvals delivered to the planning department. Number 10, applicant shall be responsible for the payment of recording of the notice of decision at the Carroll County Registry of Deeds. Number 11, as-built plans. If there are modifications, the modifications shall be itemized on the as-built plan or on an accompanying letter, and the applicant shall submit the following as-built plans: 2 sets of 24 by 36 black line plans, 1 set of 11 by 17 plan, 1 digital PDF copy of the as-built plans, and 1 stamped and signed as-built plan by the engineer or surveyor to be submitted to the planning department at the completion of construction. Lastly, the appeal process pursuant to RSA 677:15, an aggrieved party may appeal this decision to the Carroll County Superior Court within 30 days of the date of the board voted to approve or disapprove the application, or to the ZBA pursuant to RSA 676:5, Roman numeral 3, within 30 days of the date the board has made its decision. Peter, do you agree to add that to your motion?
Yes, please. And you read it a whole lot faster than I would have.
I would like to omit something else.
Sure.
If we turn back to the number 2, the landscaping bit. Where is it? Letter B, 2B. They don't need a landscaping plan. They're doing a wonderful job.
Well, the reason I think that's mentioned is that there is an RSA, there's a Wolfeboro ordinance that requires screening of, as part of the landscape plan.
But this is continuing with their plan that they've had going.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we need to have a new plan done, because
Okay.
they've already got a plan, which that takes out letter C2, because the landscape plan doesn't need to include screening, because there is no landscape plan. And then if you go on to the conditions met after, down on number 7, that's the landscaping thing, tell them they got to mow.
Well, it's Peter's motion.
Oh, Peter, how about that?
That is fine by me.
So 2B, 2C, and conditions after 7.
Okay.
Omit, please.
So amended, Peter?
So amended.
Would somebody like to second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
I have one item with that approval. I do appreciate the focus on the landscaping and omitting 2B and C, but I just want to confirm, when we initially brought this communication and summary up, we discussed the waivers that were granted and being maintained, and that is reflective of the utilities as well, which is 2, D, E, and F. And it was our intention that the utilities would be detailed with the building permit further. So my question with your approval now, that just led me to some confusion of, are those waivers maintained, and are the utilities being shown for the building permit in the future, not for this approval? So that isn't specifically speaking to D, E, and F.
I think that the motion was associated with assuming that the previous plans were basically adequate.
Okay, my confusion was when he listed those conditions to be met prior to the signing of plans, he listed 2, D, E, and F as if they were needed prior to the signing of plans, where I think our intention was to keep the plans as we have, as you mentioned, and have the utilities be for building permits after the funding and after this
And
signing.
you're accurate in your interpretation. I did read it that way.
Okay.
So what do we need to do to change that?
First of all,
Leanne?
point of order. You
Yes.
didn't accept the application as complete.
I'm sorry, thank you.
And in addition, the applicant also, in their project narrative, it says additionally, the applicant is formally requesting a waiver for the following site plan checklist, regardless of what happened in 2023. And the issue, it says that they're requesting, they're requesting 4 of the waivers. You didn't address that. So that needs to be addressed, and then I would then redo the motion for approval at this point.
Where are the waivers found?
Hmm?
Where are the waivers found that you talked about?
On the project narrative from Wilcox and Barton.
In the narrative.
And I can also speak to that. Those were on the 2023 narrative. So those are being carried through as well. They're checklist items, so it says we're formally requesting them once again to be considered. So those checklist items are also via the 2023 submission. We maintained all of them. They really are encapsulated in the ones you've already spoken about, but because they're in the checklist as well, they're listed twice in the 2023 application, so we listed them twice in this application.
All right, so I apologize for my error. I will go back now and move that we accept the application as complete.
Yeah.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Very good. We will now, I would also move that we grant the waivers as discussed for the proposed landscaping plan and for the licensed architect and landscape operation and maintenance plan, the photometric lighting plan, and the location and type of existing and proposed lighting, as this was previously discussed.
And with regard to the waivers?
That's them.
That's what I've just mentioned. So I'm,
So just to be clear, you're maintaining the waivers that were approved in
Yes.
2023. And now you're approving the 4 additional.
correct. We are maintaining the waivers that were approved in 2023 and proposing 4 additional.
Is that what you're doing?
No, I just want to be clear, they're not 4 additional this year. The 4 that are listed separately, I do understand the confusion because they're listed not as article numbers, they're listed as checklist items. Those 4 checklist items were approved in 2023. So if you were to say you're blanketing all of the waivers granted in December 5th, 2023, that includes those 4.
Okay.
It is confusing because the 2023 separates them via articles and checklists.
Thank you for the clarification. So then my motion would be to continue the waivers that were issued in December of '23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's done.
So that being said, with what we just went through with crossing and omitting these other ones, do we also do the one about lighting because it's already been done?
It would, I would,
That was approved before.
yes. That's correct, Julie. So now, because I've gotten myself out of order, I'm a little bit lost here.
Oh,
I want to make sure that,
map. We're good. It's number conditions after, it's number 8.
yeah,
Just for the sake of consistency, I would actually bring forward those conditions from the 2023, since that wasn't met.
What do you mean?
very
I
good.
would
So,
bring it forward.
so
If that condition had been met, I wouldn't be concerned, but it's over a year, and it still hasn't been met, so I would bring that condition forward. I wouldn't strike it. From the
I
notice.
thought that was the one of the waivers, though. Yeah, photometric lighting plan and location and type of existing and proposed lighting. They got to wait for
It's a
4.
condition of approval. You're not going to waive a condition. You're waiving the photometric plan.
Yeah.
So, Leanne, to be clear, you're suggesting a motion to bring those conditions of approval from 2023 forward. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, I will make that motion to bring the conditions that we set in December of '23 forward to this evening,
Just add them to these conditions.
and to add them to the
3 of them are
conditions.
the same anyways.
Yeah.
3 of them are the same. Or 2 of them are the same, I should say.
So would anybody like to second that motion?
Second.
Peter seconds it?
Questions, we're adding conditions?
Well, we're no,
we have?
we're bringing forward the conditions from December of 2023 to this evening.
So we're going to end up with more when it's
Well, it's
totally
the
done.
same conditions of approval that were in effect in December of '23,
And not these,
in addition to these.
in addition to these. So we've got the 2023s plus these
Right.
to approve, okay.
But in 2023, which is, there's a couple, what, were there only 4,
There's a
I
couple more.
believe? Was there only 4? I'm gonna get them. Hold on. One was the plan set, which we're going to have, obviously, we have these plans, so that's different. One was responsible for payment of recording fees, which is the same. Another one was documentation submitted in this package will be superseded. Now you have a new one. These are superseded. The one that I would like brought forward is the applicant shall provide a cut sheet or similar to ensure full cut-off light fixtures for the structure.
Which the applicant has already agreed to do.
Yes, yeah, we understand that was an approval condition, certainly.
But it hasn't been done. It should be brought forward.
Oh, it
When
wasn't
sure
in the
that it's
last
done.
stuff then, okay.
Yeah, it's been a year that's
It's been over a year.
over a year.
Be done. So to ensure it gets done, we're going to carry it forward.
All right.
It's not part of the building plan sets? Could be
It
separate?
will be.
It's part of the site plan approval, though, the lighting.
Part of the site plan, not the building plan? Okay.
Right, so that motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? All right. Are we good?
You don't have to read them.
I'm sorry?
You're going to now, you should probably do the reapproval, like do the approval. You don't have to read them again, but just, because you approved it before even accepting it.
Yes, that's right. So we've accepted it, we've listed our conditions.
You did the waivers.
We listed the waivers. Now a repeat motion to approve the application. I would make that motion. Would somebody like to second it?
I will second it.
With
Peter
the
seconds?
conditions
With the
noted.
conditions noted.
With the conditions noted. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you, Leanne, for keeping us on track.
Yes.
He's carrying them out.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Do we need to have the reasons why we made the approval?
I believe
Findings of fact.
findings of fact. You want to go, Peter?
That the modifications made on this particular new plan are minor changes to the existing plan from 1923 or 2023, and therefore there is nothing major which has been changed, so therefore the approval is
And largely consistent with our original decision. Very good. Very good. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is Eric C. Lewis boundary line adjustment, 211 and 219 Middleton Road, tax map 274-21 and 274-20, case 2025-05. I will step down from this as I am in a butter, and I will leave Roger to chair the hearing, if he would, please.
Okay, Randy.
Yes, good evening. Randy Tatro with Norway Plains for the applicant. Eric and Paula Lewis. Property is located 211 Middleton Road. The existing farmhouse is located on 211 Middleton Road. We were before the board, I believe, in December on a preliminary on this. This is, again, a minor lot line adjustment to add generally an acre, 1.59 acres to the existing 2.5 acre lot. That was approved, the planning board, back in the late 90s. The remaining land is 70 plus acres and currently has Dr. Lewis's house and barn located in the rear. The existing lot had state subdivision approval back in the earlier 90s approval, so adding land to it. We've shown all the site features on that lot. We asked for waivers too, soils and wetlands on the remaining 70 acres, because obviously, 70 acres and it's already got a house on it and an improved septic design. I keep switching this. But we did have topography that we put on it, so it's generally 2 waivers if you look at the waivers, A and B, similar to what you were just talking about with checklist items. That's generally it. I don't know if you guys got colored copies of that, but you can kind of see how that sits in there with the existing driveway that goes out back. If you look at this front sheet quickly, you can kind of see the area that's being added to the front lot in yellow. I just show that orange hook. And this is kind of an overview of it. And that's pretty much it. Access doesn't change off of Middleton Road. It's now a town road. Formerly was state back when this was originally approved. Like I say, both lots are not proposing any additional development at this time. And the last thing that would need to be done on this is we'd have to stake the new property line. When we were here back in December, we showed an approximate property line back here, and we wanted to hold the old interior stone walls of the property line back there. We do that when we can, and that's what we've done. So really, there's only like three new points that'll need to be set as part of the final plan recording. Questions for the board?
Is there any construction on the larger piece?
There's already a house and a barn on there, Peter. Okay. So, Dr. Lewis's new house is up in here, and the barn that's down in here. So there's a driveway that goes all the way up. So it's already developed as 70 acres, goes all the way back to the Alton town line.
Are there any other board questions? If not, can I have a motion on the granting of the waiver?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Application complete.
Are you making that motion?
I'd say that the application is complete.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I will open the public hearing. Is anyone from the public here to pontificate on this proposal?
The potential buyer of the farmhouse is here with his realtor. If you have any questions for him, obviously can ask him. But Shannon had put some recommendation conditions of approval. I don't know if you need to read them all, but that's up to you guys.
Well, first of all, can I have a motion to approve? And then we'll go through the conditions. I'll close the public hearing. Then, can I have a motion? Is that you, Vaughn?
I move that we approve this application.
Okay, and the conditions mentioned by the planner were the following plan shall be amended to reflect the date of the plans as January 2025. The following plans as amended to the date of this approval are hereby incorporated into the approval. Plan 1, sheet S1, lot line adjustment plan, tax map 274, lot 20 and 21, 2011 and 211 and 219, Middleton Road, Wolfeboro, Carroll County, New Hampshire, for Eric C. and Paula Lewis, prepared by Randolph R. Tetro, LLS number 729, Norway Plains Associates, Inc., P.O. Box 249, Rochester, New Hampshire, 03866 0249, dated January 2024, soon to be January 2025. Plan 2, sheet S2, topographic site features with all that good information, and again updated to 2025. 2, the applicant shall submit a final plan to the Office of Planning and Development for review prior to recording. 3, the final approved and reviewed boundary line adjustment plan shall be recorded at the County Registry of Deeds per RSA 676:3, Roman numeral 3, within 6 months of the approval date. Failure to comply with this requirement shall render the subdivision approval null and void. 4, if granted, the applicant shall add a note to the final recorded plans indicating the approved waivers from the subdivision regulations. 5, the applicant shall be responsible for the setting of monumentation, the submittal of the certificate of monumentation, and updating the plan set, including original stamps and signatures from a LLS, CWS, and licensed septic designer. Final drawings. I don't think we need a licensed septic designer on the plans. Signature from a licensed land surveyor and I guess a certified wetland scientist. 6, final drawings. Each individual sheet and every set of drawings must be stamped and signed by the land surveyor, engineer, in this case land surveyor. The applicant should submit the following: 2 sets of 24 by 36-inch black line final approved plans. B, 1 set of 11 by 17 final approved plan drawings, and 1 electronic version in PDF format. 7, the applicant shall be responsible for the payment of all recording fees. 8, all documentation submitted in the application package by the applicant and any requirements imposed by any other agencies are part of the approval unless otherwise updated, revised, clarified in some manner, or superseded in full or in part. In the case of conflicting information between documents, the most recent documentation and this notice herein shall generally be determining. The final appeals language shall be added to the notice of decision pursuant to RSA 677:15. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the planning board may appeal the decision to the Carroll County Superior Court within 30 days after the date upon which the board voted to approve or disapprove the application, or to the ZBA pursuant to RSA 676:5, Roman numeral 3, within 30 days following the date the board made its decision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have your approval.
And as for findings of fact, I think the increase of the smaller of the 2 lots by about 1.5 acres is beneficial to the neighborhood and is, there's nothing in violation of the existing zoning ordinance.
I agree. I think it improves the configuration of the lots.
And personally, I like when lot lines are stone walls.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is Nancy Jones and Curtis and Vanessa Peterson boundary line adjustment, 66 and 70 Clark Road, tax map 231-27 and 231-28, case 2025-06.
Again, Randy Tatro, Norway Plains, for the applicant. I want to disclose I'm actually a butter on this, across the street on this one. Again, another minor lot line adjustment. We came before the board back in December on the preliminary on this. It's an odd-shaped lot that now they want to reconfigure for obvious reasons. Mrs. Jones owns this property here, which has this little jog in it, created back when the lots were created. We went over that at the preliminary with the existing plans. The Petersons own this lot right here. They, it obviously butts up to the back of their property, which they kind of been using anyway. And so the neighbors got together and decided to make a deal to be able to convey this. In this particular case, it's not a reconfiguration of non-conforming lots. I think this lot was maybe 4/100 of an acre under the half acre. So technically was non-conforming, which now this makes it conforming. This one stays conforming. The lots are serviced by water and sewer, so there isn't any septic aspects to this one. There is an existing shed on the property that they didn't want to move, so we made sure the line was 10 feet and noted as such, which was one of the things that was picked up on the first time. We did show topography and stuff on this, and I did have to check it for wetlands, which there wasn't any. Normally, I'd ask for a waiver on that on water and sewer lots because we're not creating anything. Both lots are fully developed. The access is off Clark Road and stay the same. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that the planner wrote, but I think generally that was it. I think we got the date right this time. Yeah, says we had it December 24, and the revised date is January 25. So there will be one new monument that needs to be set right here as a part of this. The other three were held. So that's generally will be part of the monumentation certification and so forth. Did we ask for a waiver? Yeah, we did ask for a waiver as far as, septic soils on this because it's town sewer. So, but it's still on the checklist. There's not separate, there's not separate application items for that. So we did ask for that. That's 174-7D5. But that's the only thing that doesn't show up.
And you're going to change the title block on map S2
On S2.
from boundary line adjustment to topo.
Oh, yes. That was something Leanne picked up on. We got separate sheet numbers, but the one on S2 should say topographic on the top of it, which it will say when we turn in the final ones to the town.
And I believe the smaller lot will now meet the form factor.
Yep. Did the other one not meet it before? I can't remember.
I think it was just over.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that'll be under 35. And that's pretty much it. Like I say, the getting to monument these things, if we don't get hit with another big bunch of snow this weekend, we're going to try to get to some of these before that. So I know that the owners, the people that were here, and these people would like to get it taken care of and closed, so that we'll be trying to push that to get it in front and back to Leanne as quickly as we can.
How do you drive the stakes through the frost?
Through the frost?
Yeah.
Hard, very hard.
With a big hammer.
No, we have a frost pin that starts them.
Oh.
And then we get some rugged young men that will take care of it.
Well, you're sitting in the truck, right?
Yeah, no, we've been doing it a long time. Yeah, it's a little hard right now, but happens every year, as my wife said. Yeah.
So just a note on drawing sizes. I assume that you're not 24 by 36?
Yeah, we're 24 by 36 on this one.
Are you?
Yeah, the first one we did, the Streeter one over there, is 22 by 34. Normally, we'll go 24 by 36 because we need the room. So that's the standard that's in there. It just changes the price slightly on the recording fees. You know.
Oh, it's higher?
It's lower for 22 by 34.
That's interesting.
Yeah, 24 by 36 is like.
I print them big, and the
Yeah,
guys
it's like $2 or $3
just
more
go
at the
by and cut
registry.
it off.
Yeah. So, any questions?
I don't see where the waivers are. Did anybody else
Yes,
see where he asked for waivers?
yeah, they're on.
Where are they?
The the back of the third page in the stapled packet, at the bottom,
3.
just above Randy's signature. Turn one more page.
That's not the back page, that's
No,
3.
it's on the-
1, 2, 3, on the back of the third page.
In my packet, it's the back of the third page.
What does it look like?
Yeah, it's right here.
Right there, no, this one. This one, he says.
Right
But
above his signature?
Brad is showing the next page,
Okay. Don't know what to tell you.
which is actually the form. which is
Oh,
actually
the waiver
behind it.
form, yes. That's correct.
Thank you.
What I was looking at was the request for waiver.
Yeah.
Rather than the waiver form. So, would you like to make a motion on the waivers, Julie, since you're looking at them?
Yeah, I make the motion that we grant the waivers that were asked for.
Okay, the waivers are to 174-7, period D, period 5, and 6, requiring the location of groundwater, perk test soil mapping, type slopes, and wetland delineation. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. I'll make a motion to accept the application as complete.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Open the public hearing.
Yeah, we got in the butter here.
Close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. We'll make some recommendations for approval, which Roger has kindly turned.
Are we accepting as complete? Accept as
I'm sorry, yes. We'll make a motion to accept the application as complete.
seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
The hammer.
All right. The recommendations for approval, the applicant shall revise the title of Plan 2 Sheet S2 to reflect topographic site features. Plan, the following plans as amended to the date of this approval are hereby incorporated into the approval. Plan 1, Sheet S1, Boundary Line Adjustment Plan, tax map. You have to read it off here because it's not correct here. Tax map 231, lot 28, owners of record Curtis Taylor Peterson, Vanessa Lynn Peterson, 66 Clark Road, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire. And tax map 231, lot 27, owner of record Nancy Jones, 70 Clark Road, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire. Prepared by Randy Tetrault, LLS number 2729, Norway Plains Associate. And then Plan 2 Sheet S2 Boundary Line Adjustment, titled Boundary Line Adjustment Plan to be amended to, quote, Topographical Site Features Plan, tax map 23128 and 23127 as previously mentioned. Recommendation 2, the applicant shall revise the plan to reflect the 10-foot setback of the shed located on tax map 23127 to the property line. Recommendation for approval 3, the applicant shall submit a final plan to the Office of Planning Development prior to recording. Number 4, the final approved and reviewed boundary line adjustment plan shall be recorded at the County Registry of Deeds per RSA 676:3, Roman numeral 3, within 6 months of the approval date. Failure to comply with this requirement shall render the boundary line adjustment approval null and void. Number 5, if granted, the applicant shall add a note to the final recorded plan indicating the approved waiver from the subdivision regulations. Number 6, the applicant shall be responsible for setting of monumentation, the submittal of certificate of monumentation, and updating the plan set, including original stamps and signatures from an LLS, and licensed septic designer. Although I think, 7, final drawings.
That's town water and sewer.
Yeah. 7, final drawings. Oh, so town water and sewer, so it's not needed here. Is that right? Yeah. 7, final drawings. Each individual sheet in every set of drawings must be stamped and signed by a land surveyor, engineer, or architect responsible for the site plans. The applicant shall submit the following: 2 sets of 24 by 36 black line final approved plans, 1 set of 11 by 17 final approved plan drawings, 1 electronic version in PDF format. 8, the applicant shall be responsible for the payment of all recording fees. 9, all documentation submitted in the application package by the applicant and any requirements imposed by other agencies are part of this approval unless otherwise updated, revised, clarified in some manner, or superseded in full or in part. In the case of conflicting information between documents, the most recent documentation and this notice herein shall generally be determining. Number 10, the following appeals language shall be added to the notice of decision. Pursuant to RSA 677:15, any persons aggrieved by any decision of the planning board may appeal the decision to the Carroll County Superior Court within 30 days after the date upon which the board voted to approve or disapprove the application, or to the ZBA pursuant to RSA 676:5 Roman numeral 3 within 30 days following the date the board made its decision.
Here, here.
A lot of reading. All right, where was I? Those are the conditions of approval, right?
Yeah.
All right. Make a motion.
Second.
Make a motion to approve with those conditions. Roger seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Finding of fact, the
Finding-
smaller of the two lots comes into more conformance with the zoning ordinance. Period.
That's enough.
I think that's it. All right.
That's the last one.
The last item on our agenda, I'm sorry, the public comment, there's nobody here. Last item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for December 17th, 2024. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I have only one comment, and that is on page 3, the third paragraph down after 175, 144. And Roger Murray stated the Wentworth Watershed Association owns some of the lots. It doesn't own all the lots, it's some of the lots. And that was the best I could come up with.
I move that we approve these minutes with the amendment Roger just made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.